I just don't get it, man. Everybody's going to see Deadpool and Wolverine. But who's going to see my videos, huh? What has Deadpool got that I don't have? I mean, what? He does snarky, self-aware pop culture references directly at camera. Hello? That's like all I do. What am I, the GoBot to his Transformers? See? Reference. Wait, why did I look from one camera to look at another camera? It doesn't matter. Oh, is it because he's part of the MCU now, so he's part of a big long-running series? Ahem. Yeah. Or maybe it's because he can get big celebrity cameos. Well, he might have a Wolverine, but we have a Hulk. They booked the wrong Hulk. That's... I mean, look, even the first two Deadpool movies had a cancelled celebrity in them, so we can rebound from this. And I guess the point I'm getting at is... I'm Deadpool. Nah, that'll probably get pretty tiring after, I don't know, the third film. Ooh, shots fired, bam. Forget about the Merc in the mouth. You can call me the jerk with the mouth. Don't do that. It sounds weirdly sexual, actually. Deadpool will probably know how to get out of this segment and into the review. And so do I. Let's f***ing go. Let's f***ing go. Deadpool and Wolverine are finally unleashed on the MCU, and this time he's wearing yellow. So get your Wolverine popcorn bucket ready, nerds. I can tell you just went from 6 to midnight. Sna-icked. Well, we're here. Deadpool has finally arrived in the MCU with seemingly the same creative freedom we had in the Fox universe. What with the R rating, gratuitous cameos, and even a chance for Wolverine to pop his claws alongside him for a superhero crossover. So, naturally, hype is at an all-time high, especially because it feels like the MCU needs a win. And this being the only Marvel Studios film of the year, this one is good fun. Oh, no. Oh, I used the F word. Yeah, that's what you say when you kind of got a lightweight, leave your brain at the door and enjoy the ride kind of movies. And I think people have said that about Marvel movies in the past, and I've disagreed. But here, I think it kind of is the case. Something I liked about the past two Deadpool films is they had a surprising amount of heart. They told what felt like a smaller scale story as well compared to a lot of superhero films at the time. Maybe the second one less so, but that made room for at least some good character moments. And this film doesn't really have either of those things. The story is pretty by the numbers, and there are some good character moments, but it feels like some characters literally have the exact same arc as when we last saw them. And as for the story, it's an end of the world plot, but that feels kind of pointless and doesn't have any stakes because of the whole multiverse, and the film is only sporadically interested in telling it. And yeah, if you stop and think about it for 2 seconds, there's a lot of holes you can pick through it. And that would be fine because, let's be honest, a lot of these stories are just thin enough to hang cameos and jokes on. And if you go in with that in mind, yeah, you'll be entertained, as I was. But it is a bit disappointing compared to what it could have been. To be honest, this feels like the kind of comic you might gravitate towards as a kid. It has all the superheroes in it. And you're like, oh, I'll take that. And then if you go back and read a few years later, you're like, oh, man, this isn't good, actually. And I don't think this film is going to age particularly well either. A lot of people are probably expecting this to be the MCU introduction of Deadpool, and that means a whole brand new sandbox to play in. And like a child in a sandbox, at times the cameos and things in this can feel a little bit like the nerd equivalent of shaking keys in your face. And hey, that's nice when it lasts. But afterwards you'll probably feel a little bit hollow for the whole thing. There isn't a lot to the cameos in this film. It's a nostalgia hit, and at times it can feel a bit like a test of who did their Marvel homework and watched all the past films. That's okay. I enjoyed that. But it does make the film feel a little bit empty, like it's got a bag of tricks and it pulled them all out pretty quickly. And going back to the question of whether this will age well and whether or not it's actually rewatchable, I'm kind of left with the question of, when the surprises in this film aren't surprising anymore, what are you really left with? One thing you are left with is a surprising amount of sentimentality and reverence for what came before. I think people probably expected that this would be Deadpool giving his middle finger to Fox on the way to Disneyland. And it's not. It's kind of more of a love letter to the Fox universe a little bit. And I suppose that's not entirely surprising. That's where Kevin Feige got a lot of his starts and was involved. I just didn't really expect it. Some people who go into this expecting it to be Deadpool ecstatically jumping into the MCU or Deadpool kills the Fox universe will probably be disappointed. I wasn't disappointed. I was just genuinely surprised that they went that way with it. Meta humour and comic book cultural awareness were always a big part of these films, but it feels like this time they turned that up to like 11, to the point that I think it's totally inaccessible to a mainstream audience. It used to just be a case of, hey, that's a cameo from somebody you know, or, ooh, that's a superhero, do you remember them? Now it's like, hey, remember that film we were going to make or might make someday or are never planning on making ever again? Or hey, remember when people wanted this actor to play this character? It's like crazy to the point of confusion for what I have to imagine is large chunks of people. It's fine with me because I understand all that stuff and it's fine with die-hard fans. But it is a shame how much this film is kind of locked behind that wall in a way the other two films really weren't. And I think your enjoyment of the film is really going to be dependent on whether you're part of that Make Mine Marvel club. Okay, time out. This has sounded really negative and I didn't really dislike the movie, so let me say some positive things. What works? Action-wise, we all wanted a big superhero slobber knocker between Deadpool and Wolverine. And it delivered on that front, I think. It was brutal, satisfying, and at times creative. Now, it can't get past kind of a movable object, that fact that they're both basically immortal, but it was still a lot of fun to watch. The other characters and cameos, which I'm not going to spoil, actually have something to do. And to be honest, I was kind of expecting the film to take the low-hanging fruit, and it wouldn't have been surprising if they had just flashed some disposable characters on screen and made a joke of them. And by and large, the film doesn't do that. So, you know, I think to a certain degree, that's admirable. When it comes to performances, look, Ryan Reynolds is a perfect Deadpool. Like, you could just tell me he's improvising the whole time, doesn't have a script, and I believe you, because like actual Ryan Reynolds and fictional Deadpool, they're like so intertwined. I don't know where one begins and ends at this point, and that's fine. Hey, he nails it. He nails it in this film as he has in the past. Hugh Jackman always delivers as Wolverine as well. He's gruff and angry and just plays it picture perfect. He's basically doing the same kind of mannerisms and performance that he gave in Logan, but he can also deliver the gravitas when he needs to. There's scenes in this where I'm thinking, yeah, probably the best Wolverine outing we've had as far as the performance goes. And look, I'm not going to act so cynical and highfalutin and snooty to not say, yeah, he's got the yellow costume on. That's kind of awesome. The buddy cop dynamic between them really works. They play off each other well. And yeah, I will say it definitely still feels like Deadpool's movie. There are times where Wolverine is just kind of standing there waiting for Deadpool to finish talking smack. And you know, that works. It feels like the film actually leans into it and acknowledges that at some point. So that was fine by me. Most other characters in the film feel either too slight or too spoilery to touch. But Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, yeah, I feel like she did a lot with a little. There's not a lot to this character, but I did enjoy her performance. And the way she reads minds was kind of a cool, creepy visual that I thought was quite good. Other than that, not much to this character. The movie is also rife with good needle drops, which is handy because the score itself is pretty unremarkable. And there's plenty of laughs to be had, even if they are a bit more meta-focused. And, you know, I don't think it's as funny as the last two Deadpool films, but certainly I got my share of laughs. It was worth the price of admission for that alone. And yeah, that's what I will say. I'm not someone who thought this movie sucked. I've seen it twice now. I'm not some jaded fan. I think the film was entertaining. I just think it was also a little bit underwhelming for what it could have been.
Are you ready? Fuck yeah, I'm ready. I'm the Wolverine.
Deadpool and Wolverine isn't as sharp as its namesake's weapons of choice, but it's not without merit either. If you were hoping this was going to be a big exuberant entrance into the MCU by these two characters, you might be let down, but some of the cameos along the way might make up for that. Whereas if you're not a member of the Merry Marvel Marching Society, then your mileage may vary. Even with that in mind, performance-wise, it is a joy to see these characters finally properly cross paths, and that if nothing else, make sure it's a road trip worth taking. Whereas on the action and fighting front, it's a blast and suitably R-rated, and the soundtrack ensures that what you're hearing is as good as what you're seeing. And even if you're not fully grasping every reference, there are plenty of laughs to be had. And based on all that, Deadpool and Wolverine is worth sinking your claws into.